there's been a chocolate factory, a big pile of dominoes, and explosions happening often enough that notices are put up for the town's residents. It felt like I was in a war zone. Imagine you're trying to sleep and it feels like someone is literally running a car into your house. What you're looking at right now is Beastlandia, an array of homes and buildings lying to the cul-de-sac that MrBeast has spent years buying for his friends, family, and employees. However, he's faced unprecedented backlash for the acquisition of these neighborhoods. Imagine you get fired and they exile you from the neighborhood. MrBeast is a good capitalist. MrBeast creates a modern-day company town. Very incredibly hilarious. People defend MrBeast for literally starting a company town. Being pushed to respond to this public outrage on Twitter, Jimmy addresses it. Only I could get cancelled for giving people a place to live with no strings attached. All these company town tweets make no sense. I was just helping some people. But why is Beastlandia so controversial? Why is MrBeast facing backlash for creating a company town that is supposed to help people? And what is a company town? In this video, we'll explore these questions. Well, first of all, Beastlandia isn't a new idea, nor is it the first of its kind. To understand the history of these so-called company towns, we have to go back to one of the first ones ever founded.
But cooler heads prevailed, and the town was named, yes, Hershey.
In 1903, Milton Hershey founded the town of Hershey, named after himself, in Derry Township in Pennsylvania. Mr. Milton Hershey didn't make this town just to provide his workers housing, but also to provide for them a way of life. By design, Hersheytown included leisure activities that could be used by workers outside of their working hours, such as schools, churches, libraries, theaters, and museums. The houses and stores that residents in the town interacted with were all owned by their employers essentially. In essence, in a company town, the company owns the town. Today, Hershey, Pennsylvania is a popular tourist attraction that contains the famous Hershey amusement park, attracting millions of visitors per year. However, due to its history of workers' rights violations and a violent workers' strike in 1937, Hersheytown has actually lost its status as an independent municipality and is now controlled by the local Derry Township government.
Because he was so mindful of the welfare of his workers, he was stung in 1937 when some of his employees engaged in a sit-down strike at the plant. One described as a civil war in utopia.
But company towns like Milton Hershey's were created for the purpose of a workers' utopia and was convenient for many companies that had workers in industries far away from society. Incredibly wealthy capitalists and industrialists would employ intimidation tactics to get people to sell their property to build these lavish company towns. And once residents sold their homes, the companies built businesses and housing on these properties. Workers that wanted to leave the company had to leave town, and for the workers that stayed, well, their spending went back into the companies' wallets. Like MrBeast, Milton Hershey was a philanthropist and owned a chocolate company. While Hershey was generally considered more ethical with his money than most, the same could not be said for Henry Ford and his company town. A quarter century after Hersheytown, Henry Ford tore down trees in the Amazon rainforest to construct Fordlandia. To break away from the British monopoly on rubber at the time, Ford's Jungle City was to manufacture its independent supply of rubber for its cars. Unfortunately for the workers who lived in Fordlandia, which was very isolated from the rest of society, the town itself was very authoritarian and restrictive. Workers were forbidden from many activities and freedoms, and inspectors were sent monthly to homes to make sure workers were compliant with these rules. Inevitably, the workers got fed up with it, leading to a workers' revolt, which had to be quelled by the Brazilian army. Less than a decade after the founding of Fordlandia, the town was abandoned. As an article wrote, not one drop of latex from Fordlandia ever made it into a Ford car. And other revolts happened. Outside Chicago in 1894, the workers of Eugene Pullman's company town went on strike as prices of goods within the town rose while the workers took a pay cut. Eventually, President Grover Cleveland himself sent federal troops to crush the strike. Besides the hostile working and living conditions, with a lack of transparency for the average worker, what unsettles many about these company towns is that there's no escape from work for employees living in them. They feel that their souls have been bought by the company. Instead of feeling like a worker, the barbed fences, restrictions makes it feel more like a prison. With the rise of the anti-work movement, especially during the pandemic, there's been a greater call for the work-life balance as well as for increased worker protections. For instance, support for unions have actually increased for the younger generations, although union membership has declined significantly. Also, very brief intermission, but if you want to discuss more about history or politics or just ask us general questions, you can join the Discord in the link below. The capitalistic concerns of such a town are reflected in Jimmy's Beastlandia project. Yet Yet the problems with Beastlandia start off even simpler than those. Located within his hometown of Greenville, North Carolina, MrBeast started the project back in 2018. Since then, there's been a chocolate factory, a big pile of dominoes, and explosions happening often enough that notices are put up for the town's residents. It felt like I was in a war zone. Imagine you're trying to sleep and it feels like someone is literally running a car into your house. Along with 250 employees and a mega production studio, MrBeast began Beastlandia by purchasing his first home, a 4-bedroom, 5-bathroom property for himself in 2018 for $318,000. He then bought one for $263,000, and the last 3 properties for a combined total of $1.5 million. Greenville itself, despite never being a company town before, has been a college town, being home to East Carolina University, in which Jimmy attended for a brief period of time and now works with the MrBeast's company in their creator recruitment program. Many other company towns have been created, they have fallen or have not come into fruition yet, but they all have essentially the same capitalistic motives behind them. In 1966, Walt Disney built the experimental prototype community of tomorrow, abbreviated Epcot, from the ground up. A titan in entertainment, Walt Disney attempted the Epcot project to prove to the world his architectural might. He tried building a society within a society, the latter being Florida. But in the present, MrBeast is not the only one to be constructing company towns. Elon Musk recently started buying up property in Texas for SpaceX and Tesla employees, and so has Amazon expressed interest in creating a company town. With all this in mind, it's no wonder some people find parallels between the past company towns created by rich people for their employees and what MrBeast is doing now. For anyone who wants to create a company town without controversy, it's basically impossible, and that includes MrBeast. MrBeast could very well have good intentions with creating a company town though. After all, providing free housing has been a core tenet of his philanthropy. He's built and given people houses, and he's even built a town. A quick look at his company page suggests his employees are all moving to or based out of his hometown of Greenville, North Carolina. And so speaking of this, Jimmy has actually been a big booster of Greenville's economy. He works closely with the city's mayor, who stated that those dollars that he's paying out in wages stay in our community. And as a Washington Post article that profiled Beastlandia in 2023 stated, he has become a one-man driver of the local economy. One regional development official now ranks YouTube content creation among the town's biggest businesses, alongside pharmaceutical manufacturing and the local forklift plant. As it stands, the status of Beastlandia remains incomplete. There is currently one holdout house that MrBeast needs to wait to buy to complete his neighborhood, and the family that is living inside the house is currently waiting for their kid to finish school before selling. But until MrBeast changes all the restaurants in Greenville to Beast Burgers and Feastable candy shops, Beastlandia is not a fully fledged company town, but it could be. Right now, some may argue that it's too early to say anything more. The battle between company towns and workers symbolizes the balance between capitalism fueled by greed and the people who make it work. To some, Jimmy's antics represents the former. Despite this, Jimmy has hinted that he plans to continue to pursue bigger things, and there seems to be no stop to his empire. What is unclear though is whether MrBeast will be a name associated with goodwill, leadership, and philanthropy, or will go down as a tyrant, a magnet of greed and vampiric ambitions upon the lower and middle classes. These assertions may seem a little over the hill right now, but it's very possible that Jimmy could attempt to run for president, as he's hinted at.
Ask you that about being the greatest YouTuber ever. What's next? Because I was listening to your Rogan, and I swear to God, I thought this guy should be president.
Oh,
no, I'll say that'd be fun. Is that something you've thought about?
Yeah, the only thing
Political
is
aspirations.
Yeah, I would love to.
Or maybe become a bigger business magnet that the likes of Hershey and Disney could only imagine. Regardless, Beastlandia gives a clue into how MrBeast will govern a city and its people, as well as some insight into his political, economic, and social philosophies, as well as his treatment of his employees. Speaking of treatment of employees, a Time magazine article that came out earlier this year covering MrBeast reported within Jimmy's company has been a culture of burnout, and the ethos of doing things differently, of growing quickly and exponentially, has sparked concern among some about the company's safety and labor practices. People are experiencing enormous amounts of stress. There's a lot of fear that you can be fired at any moment. Another said that the average MrBeast hire lasts just 90 days before burning out. And even MrBeast himself has acknowledged breaking down mentally in a tweet. In order to upload weekly videos later this year, I've been filming every single day and I'm dying mentally. As the creator economy grows, what MrBeast is doing could be an indicator of what future YouTubers will do with their hometowns. It's clear to see that the influence of YouTubers has grown far beyond mere entertainment and pop culture. There's no telling what implications such a project holds on the ethos of the world of YouTube and the real world at that. Could Beastlandia trend towards the direction of Epcot and become a theme park? Or like Fordlandia and become an oppressive anti-worker company town? How about a social and economic utopia of fair wages, equitable living standards? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Your thoughts help make more of these.